Lily Chen made a decision in 3 seconds that would either save her life or end it. Run toward the 13 massive bikers in leather vests instead of the security booth 50 feet away. Because something in her 7-year-old gut knew that the scariest-looking men at the Riverside County Festival were her only hope. When she grabbed Jackson Nomad Reeves' vest and whispered, "A man took something from my backpack, my underwear, and he's still here," she triggered a military precision manhunt that would corner a predator in less than 8 minutes, recover stolen evidence from his pocket, and reveal he'd been hunting for months, with over 200 victims on his phone that the FBI would later find. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood wasn't a 1% club. They didn't run drugs or guns. They didn't start fights in bars or terrorize small towns. Instead, they organized toy runs for children's hospitals, raised money for veterans organizations, and participated in search and rescue operations when local authorities requested their help. Most of them had military or law enforcement backgrounds. All of them had chosen the Brotherhood for reasons that went deeper than just loving motorcycles. But the public didn't know that from looking at them. They saw the leather, the patches, the beards, the tattoos, the motorcycles lined up like weapons. They saw danger, which was why when 7-year-old Lily Chen broke away from the crowd and ran directly toward them, several club members immediately tensed. "We got incoming," Prophet said quietly, nodding toward the running child. Nomad turned and felt his entire body shift into a different mode of alertness. The little girl was crying, not the frustrated tears of a kid who'd been told no, but the terrified, desperate tears of someone in genuine distress. Her pink backpack was unzipped, contents trailing behind her. One of her shoes was untied, and she was running directly at them like they were a lifeline rather than a threat. She didn't slow down. She ran straight into the circle of bikers and grabbed onto Nomad's vest with both small hands, her face tilted up toward his, her words coming out in gasping sobs. "Please, I need help. He took something from my backpack." Nomad dropped to one knee immediately, bringing himself down to the child's eye level. His massive hands, scarred from years of mechanical work and harder things, moved slowly, carefully, hovering near her shoulders without actually touching her. Several other club members had moved closer, forming a protective wall around the girl without crowding her. Hey, it's okay," Nomad said, his voice dropping to a tone that was gentle but steady. "You're safe now. My name's Jackson. What's your name?" "Lily," the girl hiccuped, her fingers still clutching his vest. "Okay, Lily, that's a pretty name. You're doing really good. Can you take a deep breath for me?" Nomad demonstrated, inhaling slowly. Lily tried to copy him, her breath shuddering. "Good. That's real good. Now can you tell me what happened?" Lily's eyes were wide, dark brown and swimming with tears. She couldn't have been more than 7, maybe 8 years old, Asian features, straight black hair and 2 braids, wearing a purple t-shirt with a cartoon character on it and denim shorts. A child who should have been laughing at carnival games, not trembling with fear in front of strangers. "I had to use the bathroom," Lily began, her voice small but gaining steadiness as Nomad maintained eye contact. "My mom said I was old enough to go by myself if I stayed near the main path. I took my backpack because I had my phone in there and some snacks and my extra clothes because we're staying all day and—" "You're doing great, Lily," Nomad encouraged. "What happened at the bathroom?" "I left my backpack outside the stall because it was dirty in there and I didn't want to put it on the floor." Lily's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "When I came out, a man was standing there. He was holding my backpack. He smiled at me, but it wasn't a nice smile. And he said he was just making sure nobody took it." Ice formed in Nomad's chest. Several of the other club members had moved even closer now, listening intently. Tiny's massive hands had curled into fists. Prophet's jaw was tight. "Did this man give you back your backpack?" Nomad asked, keeping his voice level despite the cold rage building behind his ribs. Lily nodded. "But when I got outside and checked, my underwear was gone, the extra pair my mom packed, and my strawberry lip gloss. Those were the only things missing." The words fell like stones into deep water. For a moment, nobody moved. The sounds of the festival, music, laughter, carnival barkers, seemed to fade into background static. Nomad's military training kicked in immediately, pushing emotion aside in favor of tactical thinking. "Lily, this is very important. Can you describe this man for me?" Lily nodded quickly, seeming to sense that these intimidating strangers believed her, that they were taking her seriously. "He was shorter than you, like regular height. He had brown hair that was kind of messy. He was wearing a yellow t-shirt, like bright yellow, and jeans, and he had a black baseball cap with a red logo. I don't know what team. Did you see which way he went after he gave you back your backpack? Toward the games. Lily pointed toward the midway section of the festival. He walked that way. Nomad stood slowly, his knees cracking slightly. He looked at Prophet, who was already pulling out his phone. At Tiny, whose face had gone absolutely stone cold. At Wrench, who'd appeared from checking the bikes. At the other 10 members of the Rattlesnake Brotherhood who'd gathered around. "Tiny, Wrench, you stay with Lily," Nomad said quietly, his voice carrying the kind of command that came from leading men in actual combat. "Keep her safe, keep her calm. Prophet, call festival security and local police. Tell them we have a potential child predator on site and give them our location. The rest of you, we're going hunting." "What are we looking for?" asked Jake. Diesel Morrison, the youngest member of the club at 26, but already a veteran of 2 tours in Afghanistan. Yellow shirt, black cap with red logo, brown messy hair, average height. He's somewhere in the game section. Nomad's eyes swept over his brothers. "Rules of engagement. We locate, we contain. We do not escalate to violence unless he runs or tries to hurt someone. We're witnesses and civilians who are detaining a suspect for law enforcement. We do this by the book, but we do this fast. He's got stolen property that came from a child's backpack, and there's only one reason someone steals underwear from a 7-year-old. The club members nodded. Every single one of them understood. Several had children of their own. All of them had taken an oath when they joined the Rattlesnake Brotherhood, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. "Lily," Nomad said, kneeling down again, "these 2 men are going to stay right here with you. They look scary, I know, but I promise you they're the safest people in this entire festival. Nobody is going to hurt you. We're going to find this man, and we're going to make sure he can't do this to anyone else. Okay?" Lily looked up at Tiny, who gave her the gentlest smile his scarred face could manage, then at Wrench, who offered her a clean handkerchief from his pocket. She nodded, some of the terror leaving her eyes, replaced by something that looked almost like hope. "Okay," she whispered. "Good girl." Nomad stood and looked at his brothers. "Let's ride. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss stories like this. Drop a comment below telling us what you think. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. They didn't all move together. That would have been too obvious, too threatening. Instead, the Rattlesnake Brotherhood members dispersed through the festival in pairs and solo, each taking a different section of the midway, their eyes scanning the crowd with the practiced efficiency of men trained to spot threats. Nomad moved through the main thoroughfare, his height giving him an advantage. He could see over most of the crowd, his gaze sweeping methodically from left to right, looking for that bright yellow shirt. The festival had to have several thousand people in attendance, and the midway section alone was packed with bodies moving between game booths, food stands, and carnival rides. Yellow shirt, black cap with red logo, average height. It wasn't much to go on, but it was enough. Nomad's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out without breaking stride. Prophet Sotono. "Security notified, police en route, ETA 8 minutes. Security supervisor coming to our location. Nomad." "Copy. Keep searching." He pocketed the phone and continued moving. Around him, families laughed and children screamed with delight on the spinning rides. The contrast was jarring, all this innocence and joy, while somewhere in this same crowd, a predator walked around with a child's underwear in his pocket. The thought made Nomad's jaw clench so hard his teeth ached. His radio crackled. They'd all switched to a private channel on their handheld units. "This is Ghost. North section clear. Moving to the shooting gallery. Diesel here. West side by the Ferris wheel. Nothing yet. Prophet. Main food court. Negative contact." Nomad was about to respond when he spotted movement near a ring toss game, a flash of bright yellow partially obscured by the crowd. He altered his course immediately, his boots eating up ground as he moved closer without running, without drawing attention. There. Yellow shirt, black cap. The man was standing with his back to Nomad, watching something or someone. His posture was tense, alert, the body language of someone who knew he'd done something wrong and was looking for exits. Nomad keyed his radio, keeping his voice low. "Possible contact. Ring toss game, center midway, yellow shirt, black cap. Need confirmation before approach." "Ghost Diesel, can you get eyes from different angles?" Ghost moving to position. Diesel en route. Nomad stayed back, using a group of teenagers as cover while he watched the man. From this angle, he couldn't see the guy's face, couldn't confirm it was their target. But the clothing matched, and something about the way the man kept looking around, kept touching his pocket, set off every alarm bell in Nomad's combat-trained instincts. The man started moving, walking away from the games toward the back section of the festival grounds where the livestock barns were located. Fewer people. More isolated. Nomad's blood went cold. Target is mobile, heading toward livestock area. All units converge, but maintain distance. Do not let him see the net closing. He followed at a careful distance, keeping people between himself and the target. His radio crackled with quiet confirmations as other club members repositioned. They'd done this before. Not exactly this, but close enough. Search and rescue operations in wilderness areas, coordinated sweeps for missing persons. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood had trained together, trusted each other, knew how to move as a unit. The man in the yellow shirt walked faster now, glancing over his shoulder. Had he spotted Nomad? Or was he just paranoid? Either way, they were running out of time. The livestock area was less crowded, mostly 4-H kids showing off their animals, parents with younger children who wanted to see the goats and chickens. The man headed toward the back corner near an equipment shed where bales of hay were stacked. Nomad keyed his radio. He's boxing himself in, northwest corner, equipment shed, Ghost take, the north exit, Diesel south, Prophet east. I'm coming from west, we close on my mark. His brothers confirmed in quick succession. Nomad moved faster now, no longer worried about being subtle. The man must have heard the footsteps because he turned around, and for the first time, Nomad got a clear look at his face. Mid-30s. Unremarkable features. The kind of face that disappeared in a crowd that nobody would remember. Except for the eyes. There was something wrong in the eyes, something that made Nomad's skin crawl even from 30 feet away. And the man was touching his pocket again. His hand moving to what looked like a small bulge in the front right pocket of his jeans. Police, don't move! Except it wasn't police. It was Prophet coming around from the east side, and the shout was pure tactical misdirection, making the target think law enforcement had already arrived, making him less likely to run or escalate. The man in the yellow shirt froze, his hand still on his pocket. Nomad closed the distance in 4 long strides, his voice dropping to that same calm, dangerous tone he'd used in combat situations. Keep your hands where I can see them. Nice and easy. The man's head whipped toward Nomad, then toward Ghost appearing from the north, then Diesel from the south. 4 large men in leather vests, all of them converging with military precision, all of them radiating barely controlled violence. I wasn't... The man stammered, his face going pale. Hands out of your pockets, Nomad repeated. Now. The man complied, raising his hand slowly. His face was sweating despite the shade, his eyes darting between the 4 bikers. What's your name? Nomad asked. Brian Kowalski. Look, I don't know what this is about, but empty your pockets, Prophet said flatly. All of them, on the ground in front of you. You can't. You're not cops. We're citizens making a citizen's arrest, Ghost said quietly. His voice was thin, reedy. The kind that seemed to slide under your skin. And we have reasonable suspicion that you're in possession of stolen property. So you can empty your pockets voluntarily, or we can wait for actual law enforcement to arrive. Your choice. But you're not leaving. Brian Kowalski looked at each of them in turn, clearly doing the math. 4 against 1, all of them bigger, all of them looking at him like he was something that had crawled out from under a rock. His shoulders sagged. Slowly, he reached into his right front pocket and pulled out a small pair of children's underwear, pink, with little strawberries printed on them, and a tube of strawberry lip gloss. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the sounds of the festival seemed to fade away, leaving just the 5 of them in a bubble of cold, terrible reality. Nomad's hand moved before he consciously decided to act, grabbing the items and stepping back. He held them gingerly like they were evidence, which they were, his face carved from granite. Brian Kowalski, Nomad said, his voice barely above a whisper, but somehow more frightening than any shout. You are being detained pending arrival of law enforcement. You took these items from a 7-year-old girl's backpack at the women's restroom approximately 15 minutes ago. We have a witness. We have your description, and now we have the stolen property which you were in possession of. I can explain, Brian started. No, Prophet cut him off. You really can't. Diesel's radio crackled. Security and police are at the motorcycle area. They're asking for location. Nomad keyed his own radio. Tiny, tell them we have the suspect contained at the livestock equipment shed northwest corner. Tell them we need immediate response. Suspect is secured and we have recovered stolen property. No resistance, no violence. Copy that. They stood there in silence. The 4 Rattlesnake Brotherhood members and the man in the yellow shirt who'd made the worst decision of his life. Brian Kowalski kept his hands raised, kept his mouth shut, his face a mask of desperation and fear. Good, Nomad thought coldly. Be afraid. Footsteps approached rapidly, multiple people running. 2 festival security guards appeared first, both young men in yellow polo shirts, their eyes going wide as they took in the scene. Behind them came 2 police officers in uniform, hands on their duty belts but not yet on their weapons. Jackson Reeves, Rattlesnake Brotherhood, Nomad said immediately, his voice professional and clear. We detained this individual, Brian Kowalski, on suspicion of theft from a minor. Suspect voluntarily surrendered these items from his pocket. He held up the underwear and lip gloss, which matched the description of items stolen from 7-year-old Lily Chen approximately 15 minutes ago at the women's restroom facility. The child reported to us that this man was handling her backpack and returned it, missing these specific items. Description of suspect matches victim's statement. We have not physically touched the suspect. We have simply prevented him from leaving until law enforcement arrived. The older of the 2 police officers, a sergeant with gray hair and tired eyes, stepped forward carefully. His nameplate read, Morrison. He looked at Nomad, then at the other bikers, then at Brian Kowalski, then at the items in Nomad's hands. Son of a bitch, Sergeant Morrison said quietly. He turned to his partner. Ramirez, take custody of the suspect. Read him his rights. Officer Ramirez moved in immediately, pulling handcuffs from his belt. Brian Kowalski, you're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. As the Miranda warning echoed through the quiet corner of the festival grounds, Sergeant Morrison approached Nomad. I'm going to need statements from all of you, and I'm going to need those items as evidence. Nomad handed over the underwear and lip gloss, which Morrison carefully placed in evidence bags that materialized from his duty belt. The victim is at our motorcycle staging area with 2 more of our members. She's scared but unharmed. Parents have not yet been located. The child came to us directly. Smart kid, Morrison said. Then he looked at Nomad with something that might have been respect. Not many 7-year-olds would run toward bikers for help. Not many bikers would make good on that trust, Nomad replied. We're the Rattlesnake Brotherhood. We do toy runs, veteran support, search and rescue. He gestured at the scene. This is what we're actually about. Morrison nodded slowly. I've heard of you guys. Good reputation. He glanced at Brian Kowalski, who was now handcuffed and being led away by Officer Ramirez, his head down, his fight completely gone. You did good work today. Textbook citizen's arrest. No excessive force, solid witness testimony, recovered stolen property. This is going to be an easy prosecution. What happens now? Prophet asked. Now I take your statements, we locate the parents, we get the victim's formal statement with a parent present, and we process Mr. Kowalski on theft charges minimum, depending on what else we find. And I'm betting we'll find something when we search his vehicle and home. Those charges are going to get a lot more serious. Morrison's face hardened. Men who steal children's underwear don't stop at stealing. You probably saved more than just this one little girl today. Nomad felt something loosen in his chest. Not relief exactly, but the satisfaction of a mission accomplished. We need to get back to Lily. She's been through enough. Agreed. Let's walk. They found Lily exactly where they'd left her, sitting on Tiny's motorcycle. Not on the seat, but on the gas tank like it was a throne. Her small hands gripping the handlebars while Tiny stood beside her, one massive hand resting protectively on the back of the bike. She'd stopped crying. Her face was still tear-stained, but there was color in her cheeks now, and she was actually smiling slightly as Wrench showed her something on his phone. When Lily spotted Nomad approaching with Sergeant Morrison, she straightened up immediately. Did you find him? Nomad knelt down beside the motorcycle, bringing himself to her level again. We found him, Lily, and we found your things. The police have him now, and he's not going to hurt anyone ever again. Lily's eyes went wide. Really? Really? You were so brave, Lily. You told the truth and you asked for help, and because of that, nobody else is going to get hurt. You should be really proud of yourself. We need to find her parents, Sergeant Morrison said gently, crouching down on Lily's other side. Lily, do you know where your mom and dad might be? Lily thought for a moment. Mom was looking at the quilts in the exhibit hall, and Dad was supposed to be at the barbecue competition judging. They said I could explore a little bit as long as I stayed where there were people and I had my phone. Smart parents, Morrison observed, teaching independence but with safety rules. Officer Ramirez had already appeared, slightly breathless. Got them. Mom saw the commotion, recognized the backpack description we put out. They're coming now. A woman's scream cut through the festival noise, not a scream of fear, but of desperate relief. An Asian woman in her mid-30s came running through the crowd, a taller man right behind her, both of them sprinting toward the motorcycle area. Lily! Lily scrambled down from Tiny's bike and ran to meet them. Mom! Dad! The reunion was everything it should have been. Tears and tight hugs and frantic checking to make sure Lily was unharmed. The mother, who introduced herself between sobs as Grace Chen clutched Lily like she might disappear. The father, Robert Chen, had tears streaming down his face as he knelt in the dust and held his daughter. Grace looked up at the circle of bikers, her face a mixture of gratitude and confusion and overwhelming emotion. Thank you. Thank you. She came to you? She ran to you for help? She did, Nomad confirmed. And we're glad she did. Your daughter is incredibly brave, Mrs. Chen. She told us exactly what happened. She gave us a perfect description, and because of her, we were able to find the man and recover her property before he could get away. We caught him? Robert asked, his voice shaking. Sergeant Morrison stepped forward. We have Brian Kowalski in custody. He had your daughter's stolen items in his pocket. He's being charged with theft at minimum, and we'll be investigating further. I'm going to need statements from both of you, and I'll need to conduct a formal interview with Lily with one of you present. But your daughter is safe and the suspect is in custody thanks to... He gestured at the Rattlesnake Brotherhood. These gentlemen. Grace Chen looked at each of the 13 bikers in turn, her eyes landing finally on Nomad. I don't know how to thank you. When parents tell their children not to talk to strangers, to be careful of people who look scary. Her voice broke. We never think about teaching them that sometimes the scary-looking people are the ones who'll actually protect them. We're just people, ma'am, Tiny rumbled in his deep bass voice. People who believe that protecting kids is the most important thing anyone can do. Can I give you a hug? Lily asked suddenly, looking up at Nomad. Is that okay? Nomad felt his throat tighten unexpectedly. He glanced at Grace, who nodded through her tears. That would be just fine, Lily. The 7-year-old walked over and wrapped her small arms around Nomad's leg. She couldn't reach any higher and squeezed tight. Thank you for believing me, and for finding him, and for not being mean even though you look kind of scary. Nomad put one hand gently on top of Lily's head. You're welcome, kiddo, and remember, you saved yourself today. You were smart, you were brave, and you told someone what happened. That's what heroes do. Lily pulled back and beamed up at him. Then she turned to the rest of the club. Are you all in a gang? Several of the bikers smiled despite themselves. Prophet crouched down to Lily's level. We're a motorcycle club, like a family, but we ride together and we help people when they need it. That's cool, Lily decided. When I grow up, I want to be in a motorcycle club that helps people. Then you'll be the best kind of biker there is, Prophet told her seriously. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood left the Riverside County Summer Festival 45 minutes later than planned, but none of them regretted the delay. They'd given their statements to the police, had witnessed Grace and Robert Chen's tearful gratitude, and had even received awkward but sincere thanks from several festival goers who'd witnessed the aftermath and realized what the intimidating bikers had actually done. As they rolled out onto the highway, 13 motorcycles in formation, Nomad thought about how the day had unfolded. They'd come to the festival by chance. Lily had run to them because she had nowhere else to turn. And in that moment, everything that the Rattlesnake Brotherhood stood for had been tested and proven. His phone buzzed. A text from Prophet. Morrison just called. They found over 200 images on Kowalski's phone, multiple victims. FBI's taking over the case. They're calling us heroes. Nomad didn't respond immediately. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a man who'd done what any decent person should do when a child asks for help. But he also knew that wasn't quite true. Most people wouldn't have organized a tactical search. Most people wouldn't have contained a suspect without violence. Most people wouldn't have known exactly how to preserve evidence and work within legal, Boundaries while still achieving justice. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood wasn't most people. When they finally reached Oakmont and the memorial service for fallen riders, Nomad told the story of Lily Chen to the assembled clubs. He told it not to glorify what they'd done, but to remind everyone why they rode, why they wore the patches, why they called each other brother. "We look dangerous," Nomad said to the crowd of bikers. "We know that. We wear leather and patches, we ride loud machines, we take up space. And yeah, sometimes that intimidates people, but today, a 7-year-old girl looked at 13 scary bikers and saw safety. She saw protection. She saw people who would believe her and help her. And that's who we need to be every single day. Not despite how we look, but because of it. The world needs protectors, and sometimes protectors wear leather and ride motorcycles." The crowd erupted in agreement, engines revving, fists raised, voices shouting support. Later that night, Nomad received an email from Grace Chen. It included a photo of Lily smiling now, holding a drawing she'd made. 13 stick figures on motorcycles with the words, "My Heroes," written in purple crayon across the top. Nomad saved the image to his phone. He'd print it later, maybe frame it, definitely keep it as a reminder of why this life, this brotherhood, this purpose mattered. Because at the end of the day, when a child in danger ran toward them instead of away, that meant they were doing something right. That meant they were more than just bikers. They were exactly what the world needed them to be. News of what happened at the Riverside County Summer Festival spread faster than wildfire through dry brush. By Sunday morning, less than 24 hours after the incident, the local newspaper had picked up the story. By Monday, it had gone regional. By Tuesday, it was national news. "Biker gang saves child from predator," read one headline. Though Nomad winced at the word gang, others were more accurate. "Motorcycle club detains suspected child predator at local festival," and "Rattlesnake Brotherhood, the unlikely heroes who answered a child's call for help." The media attention was overwhelming and, frankly, unwanted. Nomad found himself fielding calls from reporters, podcast hosts, and even a producer from a national morning show who wanted the club to fly to New York for an interview. He declined them all politely but firmly. "We didn't do this for publicity," he told Prophet over coffee at their usual diner 3 days after the incident. "We did it because a kid needed help. I know that, you know that. But the world needs to hear these stories," Prophet argued, stirring sugar into his black coffee with methodical precision. "How many other Lilies are out there who don't speak up because they think no one will believe them? How many predators walk free because people are too scared or too apathetic to intervene?" Nomad considered. This. Prophet had a point. He usually did. The man hadn't earned his road name by being wrong about things. "One interview," Nomad finally conceded. "Local paper only? We tell the story accurately. We emphasize that Lily is the real hero for speaking up, and we make it clear that the Rattlesnake Brotherhood is about community service, not vigilantism." Prophet nodded, already pulling out his phone. "I'll set it up." The interview ran the following Sunday in the Riverside County Gazette, a full 2-page spread with photos of the club, though notably not of Lily or her family, whose privacy the Chens had specifically requested be protected. The journalist, a woman named Sarah Martinez, had done her homework. She'd interviewed not just Nomad, but also Sergeant Morrison, several festival attendees who'd witnessed parts of the incident, and even representatives from the veterans organizations and children's hospitals that the Rattlesnake Brotherhood regularly supported. The article painted a comprehensive picture. These weren't outlaws or criminals. They were military veterans, mechanics, teachers, and tradesmen who'd found brotherhood in motorcycle culture and used that brotherhood to give back to their communities. The incident with Lily Chen wasn't an aberration. It was exactly who they'd always been. "I've known Jackson Reeves for 6 years, the article quoted Morrison as saying. "The Rattlesnake Brotherhood has assisted in 3 missing person searches, raised over $50,000 for local charities, and maintained an absolutely spotless record with law enforcement. What happened at the festival was these men being exactly who they've always been. Protectors." The response was immediate and overwhelming. The club's Facebook page, which had previously had maybe 200 followers, suddenly exploded to over 15,000. Their inbox flooded with messages, some from people thanking them, others from parents sharing similar stories of their own children's encounters with predators, and still others from motorcycle clubs around the country expressing solidarity and respect. But the most impactful response came from an unexpected source. 2 weeks after the festival incident, Nomad received a call from a woman named Dr. Patricia Hoffman, who identified herself as the director of the Riverside County Child Advocacy Center. The center provided services to children who'd been victims of abuse, forensic interviews, therapy, medical examinations, and family support. "Mr. Reeves," Dr. Hoffman began, her voice warm but professional, "I've been following the news about what your club did at the festival. I wonder if you might have time to meet with me. I have a proposal I think might interest you." Nomad agreed, and 3 days later found himself sitting in Dr. Hoffman's office, a space decorated with children's artwork and soft furniture designed to be non-threatening. Dr. Hoffman herself was a woman in her late 50s with kind eyes and the air of someone who'd seen too much darkness but refused to let it extinguish her light. "The work we do here is vital," Dr. Hoffman explained, sliding a brochure across her desk. "But we're constantly underfunded and understaffed. We rely heavily on community support, both financial and volunteer." Nomad nodded, flipping through the brochure. The statistics were staggering. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys would experience sexual abuse before age 18. Most abuse happened at the hands of someone the child knew and trusted, and the majority of cases went unreported because children were afraid they wouldn't be believed. "What happened with Lily Chen is incredibly rare," Dr. Hoffman continued. "Not the abuse itself, sadly that's all too common. But her response, running to strangers and immediately reporting what happened, that's unusual. Most children stay silent. They're scared, they're confused, they think it's somehow their fault, and when they do speak up, they're often dismissed or not taken seriously." "Lily was brave," Nomad said quietly. "Lily was brave, and she encountered people who believed her immediately," Dr. Hoffman corrected. "That combination saved her from potentially much worse trauma. But here's what I'm proposing. What if the Rattlesnake Brotherhood could help us teach other children to be brave like Lily? What if you could help us create a community program focused on child safety and empowerment?" Nomad sat back in his chair. "What kind of program?" Dr. Hoffman pulled out a folder, opening it to reveal a preliminary proposal she'd clearly been working on. "A partnership. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood would help us organize community events, safety fairs, self-defense workshops, educational sessions for parents about warning signs of abuse. You'd be visible, approachable figures in the community who children could see as safe adults. And we'd provide the expertise, the curriculum, the professional guidance." "Why us?" Nomad asked. "Why not police officers or teachers or—" "Because Lily Chen ran to you," Dr. Hoffman interrupted gently. "A 7-year-old girl in crisis didn't run to security guards or festival staff or any official authority figure. She ran to 13 men in leather vests covered in patches. Do you know why?" Nomad shook his head. "Because you looked strong. You looked capable. You looked like people who could handle a threat. Children have incredibly good instincts about who will protect them versus who will dismiss them. Lily's instincts were absolutely correct." Dr. Hoffman leaned forward. "Imagine if we could replicate that. Imagine if children throughout this county knew that the Rattlesnake Brotherhood were people they could trust, people they could turn to in an emergency. Imagine the lives we could save." Nomad felt something shift in his chest. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood had always done charity work, but this was different. This was targeted. This was purposeful. This was turning one incident into a lasting legacy. "I need to talk to my brothers," Nomad said slowly. "This is a club decision, not just mine. But Dr. Hoffman, I think you might be onto something." The Rattlesnake Brotherhood held their monthly meeting the following Tuesday evening at their clubhouse, a converted garage on the outskirts of town that smelled permanently of motor oil and leather. 13 men sat around a scarred wooden table, beers within reach, as Nomad presented Dr. Hoffman's proposal. He laid it out methodically. The partnership with the Child Advocacy Center, the community programs they'd developed together, the training they'd receive on recognizing abuse warning signs, the time commitment involved, the potential impact. When he finished, silence settled over the room like dust. Tiny was the first to speak, his deep voice rumbling through the quiet. "My daughter is 12. Last year, her coach, her soccer coach, someone we trusted, started texting her inappropriate things. She showed me the messages because she felt uncomfortable. We reported him immediately, he was arrested, and it turns out she was the 7th girl he'd targeted. 7. And the first 6 never said anything because they thought no one would believe them over a respected coach." More silence. Every man in the room understood what Tiny was saying without him having to elaborate. "I'm in," Tiny said flatly. "Whatever this program needs, I'm in." "My nephew was abused by a family friend when he was 9, Prophet added quietly. "Didn't tell anyone for 3 years because the guy convinced him it was normal, that all boys went through it. By the time my sister found out, the damage was done. The kid's 25 now and still in therapy." Wrench cleared his throat. "I was that kid. Different circumstances, same story. Someone I trusted. Took me 15 years to tell anyone. If this program can help even one kid speak up sooner, avoid years of silence and shame, then yeah, count me in." The confessions continued around the table. Personal stories, family stories, stories of friends and neighbors and people they'd known who'd suffered in silence because children weren't taught they had the right to say no, weren't taught their bodies were their own, weren't taught that some secrets should never be kept. By the time the discussion ended, the vote was unanimous. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood would partner with the Riverside County Child Advocacy Center. "One condition," Nomad said, looking around at his brothers. "We do this right. We get properly trained. We follow professional guidelines. We don't go rogue. We don't play vigilante. We work within the system. Agreed?" 13 voices answered in unison. "Agreed." The partnership launched officially 3 months after the festival incident. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood underwent extensive training, 40 hours of coursework on child development, trauma, recognition, appropriate interactions with minors, mandated reporting requirements, and de-escalation techniques. They learned the statistics, the warning signs, the proper protocols for reporting suspected abuse to authorities. It was harder than any of them expected. The material was emotionally brutal. Case studies and videos and testimony that left grown men with tears in their eyes and rage in their hearts. But they persevered because they understood the mission. Their first community event was a safety Saturday held at the same Riverside County Fairgrounds where everything had started. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Over 300 families attended. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood members staffed various stations, teaching children about body autonomy and the difference between good touches and bad touches, demonstrating basic self-defense moves, distributing educational materials to parents, and simply being visible, approachable figures that kids could interact with. Lily Chen and her family showed up midway through the event. Lily was wearing a t-shirt that read, "Speak up, speak out," and carrying a small backpack. A new one, Nomad noticed, not the pink one from the festival. "We wanted to support you," Grace Chen explained as she shook Nomad's hand. "And we wanted Lily to see that something good came from what happened to her." Lily ran immediately to Tiny, who'd become her favorite during the aftermath of the festival. "Can I sit on your motorcycle again?" "Sure thing, kiddo," Tiny said, his face softening into that same gentle smile, "but only if your parents say it's okay." Grace nodded permission and Lily scampered off with Tiny while Robert Chen pulled Nomad aside. "The man who took her underwear," Robert said quietly. "Brian Kowalski. The FBI found evidence of abuse involving 11 different children." 11. They're building a massive case against him. He's looking at life in prison. Nomad felt cold satisfaction settle in his gut. "Good. But here's the thing," Robert continued. "The FBI said if you guys hadn't caught him that day, if Lily hadn't spoken up, he would have escalated. They found plans on his computer, detailed plans about how to abduct a child from a public place. The psychologist they consulted said he was in the preparation phase. You didn't just save Lily. You saved whoever he was planning to take next." The weight of that statement hung in the air between them. How many lives had been saved by a 7-year-old's courage and 13 bikers' willingness to act? "Lily's in therapy now," Robert added. "Dr. Hoffman recommended someone at the advocacy center. She's doing well. Nightmares have stopped. She's back to being her normal self. And she tells everyone about the bikers who saved her. You guys are like superheroes to her." Nomad glanced over at where Lily sat on Tiny's motorcycle, laughing as the big man made exaggerated engine noises. "She saved herself, we just backed her up. That's not how she sees it," Grace Chen said, rejoining the conversation. "And honestly, that's not how we see it either. You gave her the gift of being believed. That's something she'll carry with her forever." 6 months after the festival incident, Nomad received a phone call that would change everything again. It was from a woman named Michelle Torres, who identified herself as a producer for a national nonprofit organization called Protect Every Child. "Mr. Reeves," Michelle began, "we've been following the work your club has been doing in Riverside County. The partnership with the Child Advocacy Center, the community programs, the education initiatives. It's exactly the kind of grassroots community protection model we've been trying to develop nationwide. Nomad put the call on speaker so Prophet, who was sitting across from him at the clubhouse, could hear. We're just doing what needs to be done, Ms. Torres. And doing it extremely well, Michelle replied, which is why we'd like to propose something. What if we could help you expand this model? What if we could provide funding, resources, and support to help other motorcycle clubs around the country develop similar partnerships with their local child advocacy centers? Nomad and Prophet exchanged glances. You want to replicate what we're doing? We want to scale it, Michelle corrected. Protect Every Child has contacts with child advocacy centers in all 50 states. We have curriculum developers, trainers, legal experts, fundraising capabilities. What we don't have is community buy-in. People are suspicious of professional organizations swooping in with programs. But a local motorcycle club partnering with a local CAC? That's authentic. That's trusted. That's powerful. This would be a national initiative? Prophet asked. Potentially international eventually. We're calling it the Guardian Angels Initiative. Motorcycle clubs trained as community protectors and child safety advocates. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood would be the pilot program, the model for everyone else to follow. We'd document your processes, develop training modules based on your experiences, and help recruit other clubs who share your values. Nomad rubbed his beard, thinking. A national program. Hundreds or thousands of bikers trained to protect children, to recognize abuse, to intervene appropriately. The potential impact was staggering. What's the catch? He asked. Michelle laughed. The catch is that it's a lot of work. You'd be committing to regular training updates, documentation of your programs, hosting site visits from other clubs, potentially traveling to conferences to present your model. And you'd be under scrutiny. The media will be watching, critics will be looking for any excuse to tear it down, and you'll have to maintain absolutely impeccable standards. We can handle scrutiny, Nomad said flatly. We've been handling it our entire lives just by wearing these vests. Then let's make this happen, Michelle said. I'll send over the formal proposal, but I wanted to gauge your interest first. Mr. Reeves, what you and your club did for Lily Chen was heroic. What you've built in the 6 months since then is revolutionary. Let's make sure other communities can benefit from it. After the call ended, Nomad sat in silence for a long moment. Prophet waited patiently, knowing his friend needed to process. This could change everything, Nomad finally said. Not just for us, but for what it means to be a motorcycle club in this country. Is that a bad thing? Prophet asked. No, Nomad said slowly. I think it might be the best thing we ever do. 1 year later. The first annual Guardian Angels Initiative conference was held in a hotel convention center in Denver, Colorado, exactly 1 year and 2 weeks after Lily Chen ran to the Rattlesnake Brotherhood for help. 147 motorcycle club members from 38 different clubs across 23 states attended. They came from all backgrounds. Veterans clubs, Christian clubs, independent clubs, even a few traditional 1% clubs who'd heard about the program and wanted to learn how to give back to their communities. Nomad stood at the podium during the opening session, looking out at a sea of leather vests and patches, of beards and tattoos and hard faces that concealed softer hearts. A year ago, Nomad began, his voice carrying through the sound system. A 7-year-old girl made a decision that changed my life and the lives of my brothers. She chose to trust us. She chose to believe that we would help her instead of hurt her. And that trust, that faith, became a responsibility we couldn't ignore. He told Lily's story, the full version, the one he'd told dozens of times now, but that never got easier. He talked about the investigation, the training, the partnership with the Child Advocacy Center, the community programs they'd developed. But here's what I want you to understand, Nomad said, his eyes sweeping across the audience. We're not special. We're not uniquely qualified. We're just people who decided that protecting kids mattered more than our reputation, more than our image, more than our comfort. And if we can do it, so can you. The presentation continued with practical information. How to approach local child advocacy centers, what training was required, how to structure community programs, how to work effectively with law enforcement, how to maintain appropriate boundaries, how to handle media attention. During the lunch break, Nomad was approached by a man who introduced himself as Carlos Mercy Delgado, president of a club called the Desert Riders based in Arizona. That story about the little girl, Mercy said, his voice rough with emotion. My granddaughter, she's 5. Last month, a teenage neighbor started doing things, touching her in ways that weren't right. She told her, "Mama, thank God, and we handled it." But it made me realize we need to be doing more. Our whole club, our whole community, we need to be the kind of people kids can trust. Then let's make that happen, Nomad said, shaking Mercy's hand. That's why we're all here. By the end of the conference, 42 clubs had committed to implementing the Guardian Angels initiative in their communities. Protect Every Child had trained facilitators ready to help with implementation. The network was growing. 3 months after the Denver conference, on a crisp autumn Saturday, the Rattlesnake Brotherhood hosted their third Safety Saturday event at the Riverside County Fairgrounds. It had become a regular quarterly occurrence, and attendance had grown to over 700 families. Nomad was manning the Ask a Biker booth, a station where children and parents could ask questions about motorcycles, safety, and the club's community work, when he spotted a familiar family walking through the YASA entrance. Lily Chen had grown in the year and a half since the incident. She was taller, her face had lost some of its baby roundness, and she carried herself with a confidence that made Nomad's chest tighten with pride. She was wearing a leather vest, a child-sized replica of the Rattlesnake Brotherhood cuts, gifted to her by the club on the anniversary of the incident, over a purple t-shirt. "Jackson," Lily called out, waving enthusiastically. She'd long since dropped the Mr. Reeves formality. Nomad stepped out from behind the booth and knelt down as Lily ran up. She didn't hug him. She'd grown past that phase, but she grinned up at him with genuine affection. "Guess what?" Lily said excitedly. "I'm starting a club at my school. It's called the Safety Squad. We're going to teach other kids about stranger danger and how to speak up if something bad happens. My teacher said I could present to the whole school assembly." "That's amazing, Lily," Nomad said, and meant it. "Absolutely. You're going to help so many other kids." "Because you helped me," Lily said matter-of-factly, "and now I can help them. That's how it works, right? People help people? That's exactly how it works." Grace and Robert Chen joined them, both smiling. "She's becoming quite the little advocate," Grace said. "Dr. Hoffman says her confidence has skyrocketed since she realized she could turn her trauma into something positive." "She's remarkable," Nomad agreed. "We wanted to tell you something," Robert said, his tone becoming more serious. "We're moving. My job is transferring me to Oregon. We leave in 2 months." Nomad felt an unexpected pang of loss. Lily and her family had become fixtures at their events, regular faces in what had become an extended community family. "But before we go," Grace continued, "we wanted to make sure you knew what you and your brothers did, what you've built here. It's going to outlast all of us. Lily will carry this with her forever, and so will we. We're naming our foundation after you," Robert added. "The Grace and Robert Chen Foundation for Child Safety, in partnership with the Rattlesnake Brotherhood Guardian Angels initiative. We've been saving money, setting up the nonprofit structure. Our first grant is going to fund 3 more child advocacy center partnerships in counties that don't currently have them." Nomad felt his throat tighten. "You don't have to—" "Yes, we do," Grace interrupted firmly. "You saved our daughter. You believed her when she was terrified. You acted when others might have hesitated. And then you turned one incident into a movement. This is how we pay that forward." Lily tugged on Nomad's vest. "Can we take a picture? I want to remember this forever." They gathered, Lily in the center, Grace and Robert on either side, Nomad and several other Rattlesnake Brotherhood members surrounding them. Someone snapped the photo, capturing smiles and leather and the autumn sunshine filtering through the trees. Later, when Nomad looked at that photo on his phone, he realized it encapsulated everything. A family healed, a community protected, a child empowered, a brotherhood validated. This was why they rode. This was why they wore the patches. This was why they chose to be more than just men who loved motorcycles. They chose to be guardians. The Guardian Angels initiative expanded to 217 motorcycle clubs across 41 states and 3 Canadian provinces. Over 5,000 bikers had completed the training. Community safety programs had reached an estimated 250,000 children and families. Brian Kowalski was sentenced to 75 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. The 11 victims whose images were found on his devices all received counseling services, and their families received support through various victim advocacy programs. Lily Chen, now 11 years old and living in Portland, Oregon, had become a youth speaker for child safety organizations. She spoke at schools and community centers, sharing her story and encouraging other children to speak up. She still wore her miniature Rattlesnake Brotherhood vest to every speaking engagement. The Riverside County Child Advocacy Center saw a 300% increase in reports during the 3 years following the Safety Saturday initiatives. More children speaking up meant more children getting help. More predators being caught meant more communities becoming safer. Nomad still led the Rattlesnake Brotherhood, though he'd added Guardian Angels Initiative Director to his informal titles. He traveled regularly to help other clubs implement the program, sharing lessons learned and best practices. But his favorite part of the work was still the local events. The quarterly Safety Saturdays, where he could interact directly with families, where he could see the impact in real time, where he could watch children approach bikers without fear, and parents express gratitude for the protection these leather-wearing guardians provided. On a warm spring afternoon, exactly 3 years after the festival incident, Nomad received an email with an attachment. It was from Lily Chen. The email was brief. "Dear Jackson, I wanted you to see this. Thank you for everything. Love, Lily." The attachment was an essay Lily had written for a school assignment titled My Hero. Nomad read it slowly, his vision blurring slightly as he reached the conclusion. "Heroes don't always look like you expect. My heroes wear leather and ride motorcycles and have tattoos that tell stories. They look scary to people who don't know them. But I know them. I know that when a little girl was afraid, they believed her. When someone bad needed to be stopped, they stopped him, and when they could have walked away, they stayed. They didn't just save me, they saved other kids too, kids they'll never meet, by teaching people that everyone can be a protector. My hero is Jackson Reeves and the Rattlesnake Brotherhood. They taught me that being brave means asking for help, and being strong means helping others. That's who I want to be when I grow up." Nomad saved the email, adding it to a folder labeled Why We Ride that contained hundreds of similar messages, photos, and testimonials collected over the years. Then he stood, grabbed his leather vest from the chair, and headed out to the garage where his motorcycle waited. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood was meeting for their weekly ride. Nothing special, just brothers on the road together the way it had always been. But now, when they rode through town, children waved, parents smiled, community members called out greetings. The Rattlesnake Brotherhood had become exactly what they'd always wanted to be: protectors, guardians, proof that sometimes the most unlikely people become the most important heroes. All because one brave little girl made a decision to trust them, and they chose to honor that trust in every way that mattered. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. Subscribe so you don't miss stories like this. Drop a comment below telling us what you think. Share this with someone who needs to hear it.